Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Start on page 3. Ivdu et Hashem.
Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Bo lefanav birnana, lefanav birnana. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Bo lefanav birnana, lefanav birnana. Yalalai, 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 yalalai. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Oh, lefanav birnana, lefanav birnana. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Oh, lefanav birnana, lefanav birnana. Yalalai, 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 Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we say Shabbat Shalom to those of you who are joining us online at home. It's so good for all of us to be together as we welcome this Shabbat. Well, it's almost the end of July, which means for some, the summer is quickly burning out. I know some of our school districts are already back in school, or I think tomorrow is the first day for the Stockton School District, and then followed by Lincoln next week. And I'm in shock. How did that happen? We're going to hang on to these last days of summer. And actually this week on the Jewish calendar marks the beginning of the Hebrew month of Av. It was Rosh Chodesh Av just 2 days ago. And this is a very special month on the Jewish calendar. There are two notable holidays. One is Tisha B'Av, which is the 9th day of Av, which is the day when the ancient temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. And I'll be talking a little bit about that in my sermon later on. But there's another holiday, totally different, a joyous holiday that's not too many days after Tisha B'Av. It's Tu B'Av, the 15th of the Hebrew month of Av, which is sort of Jewish Valentine's Day.
Love Day.
In the ancient days of biblical Israel, it was on this day where all the young, unattached, eligible young women would go out into the fields, and all the eligible, unattached young men who were looking for a mate would go out into the fields, I guess sort of a biblical hookup, I don't know, where they would meet and hopefully find their beshert, their intended or their beloved. And not a major holiday on the Jewish calendar, but a beautiful holiday that we can embrace and remember and focus on love. Not just romantic love, but on all kinds of love that are so important in all our lives. Well, let's take a moment to greet one another all about us. And those of you who are home, why don't you go ahead and send a chat, Shabbat Shalom, so that we hear you and see you. And let's return to our seats as we turn to page 5. Zamru Ladonai, Bechinor, sing unto God, Bechinor on the harp and with song. When we use, all of us, our God-given instruments, our voices.
Bechinor v'kol zimra b'chatzot v'kol shofar hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai.
Try the yaimai.
Lai, lai, la, lai, lai, la, 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 lai. Lai, lai, la, 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 lai, ai, la, 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 lai. Ya, la, lai, lai, ya, la, la, lai. Lai, la, 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 lai. Zamru Ladonai. Zamru Ladonai Bechinor. Zamru Ladonai Bechinor v'kol zimra. Lai, lai, la, lai. Lai, la, 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 lai. Lai, lai, la, 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 lai. Ai, la, 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 lai. La, la, lai, lai, la, 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 lai. Lai, la, 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 lai. La, lai, 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 la, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
Our service continues now with the lighting of the Shabbat candles on page 8, and it's my pleasure to invite onto the bima for the honor of lighting the candles, Menashe Contreras. We're missing Nancy, who's on a trip to Mexico. And we hope she's safe and having a good time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu lehadlik ner lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you, Menashe. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
And we continue now with our call to worship, our Baruch Hu on page 9. And we invite those who are able to please stand and Not standing is okay too if that's difficult for you. As we like to say, you can stand in your heart.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. La 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 la. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei Yom V'Layla, Kolel Or Mipnei Choshev, Kolel Or Mipnei Choshev, V'Choshek Mipnei Or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. Continue on page 10.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha, veshinantam levanecha, vedibarta bam, veshivtecha bevetecha, uvlechtecha baderech, uveshoklecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, uktavtam al mizuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Let us read together on the top of page 11. Standing at the water's edge, the sea spray on your cheek, close your eyes and feel within the beating of freedom's drum. Listen closely on the breeze. Do you hear the music of the ages? O God, you beat the drum. You are the song. You are the wonder in each of us. With joy and awe, we sing to you this song of freedom.
Lai la lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la lai 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 la 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 lai la lai 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 la la lai 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 la lai 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 la 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 lai lai la lai 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 la 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 lai la lai 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 la la lai Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norak tehilot, oseh belem. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norak tehilot, oseh belem. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokeh al yam lifnei Moshe. Ze'eli, anu ve'ameru, Adonai imlok le'olam va'ed. Anyai lai, la 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 la
The Shamrim is on the top of page 13.
Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל
Our service continues on the bottom of page 13, and we invite you to rise either physically or in your heart as we chant together the Amidah.
Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagita Hilatecha. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagita Hilatecha. O God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagita Hilatecha. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagita Hilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava. Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah.
Atah gibor
Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol, Atah Rav lehoshia, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayim emunato lishanei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit, Umechayei, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanata l'hachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukadoshim b'chol yom, Yehallelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. We read together on the bottom of page 15, Modim anachnu lach, Shatahu Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, Magen Yishenu, Atahu Lador Vador. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift.
Shalom Rach. לעולם.
Shalom
Shalom
Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
כי אתה הוא מלך הדון, לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך הדון,
לכל השלום. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim
Let us take a few quiet moments now so that we each might have a chance to turn inward to pray the prayers that are not written on the pages of a prayer book, but those that are written on our hearts. Tfilat Halev.
page 18.
Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. Lord my God, I pray that these things never be. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Thank Beth for bringing her beautiful talent and music to our service this evening, and all of you for singing so beautifully. I can really hear you tonight, and it's wonderful. One of the things about the pandemic when we were leading services at home or here in an empty sanctuary was the emptiness in front of us. We're so used to not singing to or for, but with. And so it's so wonderful to have you in the seats and to be able to hear you singing so beautifully. Thank you. You fill my soul. Well, it was a hot, humid night in August of 2000. Danny was racing, and he thought he had time to do everything that he needed to do, but he was running late. It was before the days of cell phones, so he couldn't call to tell Peter that he wouldn't be home on time. They had just reached a new milestone in their relationship. After 3 years, they had just moved in together, and things were going well. Tonight, Peter was preparing a special dinner for him, and now he was going to be late. He was sitting there bracing himself by the doors of the subway car, ready to bolt out and up the stairs to get home. The train finally screeched to a stop. The doors opened, and he dashed off the train, dodging people all the way towards the stairs. And as he climbed the first step, he noticed out of the corner of his eye a bundle underneath a bench. At first, he thought it was maybe a kid's doll wrapped in a blanket, but then he was sure that he saw the bundle move, and that stopped him in his tracks. He turned around and he ran back the steps and back to that bench, and he knelt down to look at that bundle, and sure enough, it was a newborn baby. A baby! A baby! A baby! He started to scream, but Nobody moved. No one stopped to help him. New Yorkers, they walked by, oblivious, or looked at him like he was crazy, avoiding eye contact. Others just tuned him out. No one was paying attention. Meanwhile, Danny was just sitting there looking at this beautiful child wrapped in an old sweatshirt with these dark eyes looking back up at him. Since no one would stop and help and no one seemed to care, he realized he would have to do something himself. So he carefully cradled the baby as he ran up the stairs, and he found a payphone to call 911. He explained who he was and that he had just found a baby in the subway, and then he called Peter and he told him what was going on. And he asked if he could come and meet him at the subway station while he waited for the police. When Peter arrived, he told him the whole story and how he couldn't believe that no one would stop to help. Despite his anxious pleas, and he had just found a baby under a bench. I found a baby, I said. I was yelling, a baby, a baby. I found a baby. And people just walked by. They just kept on going, walking away like nothing had happened. It was so painful. The pathos of it all. Who would leave a baby underneath a bench in a subway station, wrapped in a sweatshirt, indifferent to that child's suffering? How long had that child been there? And how was it that no one seemed to care? You know, next Friday night, Jews all around the world will usher in the holiday of Tisha B'Av, the day which commemorates the destruction of the ancient temple in Jerusalem. It was on that day, almost 2,000 years ago, that the Romans burned the temple to the ground, and the city of Jerusalem was utterly destroyed. And Tisha B'Av has also become a catch-all for the many periods of suffering and pain throughout Jewish history, from the Crusades to the Spanish Inquisition, the expulsion from England, and the Holocaust. But the rabbis teach that the temple was destroyed not because of Jew hatred, but because of sinat chinam, baseless hatred amongst our own people that, like a cancer, weakened us from within. But I wonder, was it really baseless hatred? Or perhaps just indifference? Was it that our ancestors saw tears in the fabric of their society, that they saw people thinking only of themselves, or people being taken advantage of? But they were okay, so they kept going. They, like the New Yorkers on the subway that day, were indifferent to the suffering around them. That's a kind of danger, a sickness that plagues many societies, and even our people. God's chosen, as we are known, are not immune. We see it even today when Jews resort to infighting or fail to see the pain we sometimes inflict on one another. As the EMTs finished examining the baby and started to pick him up to take him to the hospital, Peter wrapped his arms around Danny and said, I have a feeling you're going to be connected to that kid forever. Someday that kid's going to grow up and he's going to ask who found him, and it's going to be you. I just have a feeling. 4 months later, someone from Child Protective Services called Danny and he asked him to testify in court about how he found the baby. When he arrived, the judge asked if he could possibly stay for the whole session rather than just the part where he was testifying. And as the case went on, she turned to him and she looked him in the eye and she said, "Would you like to take this baby home? Would you like to adopt him?" Without blinking, Danny said, "Yes, of course. But it's not that easy." To which the judge smiled and said, "But it can be." Turns out that she was piloting a new program in New York, a program which allowed the court to place children in non-traditional homes as long as there was a connection to the child. Danny didn't have any training to be a foster parent, and he wouldn't have been approved previously. But with this new program, she knew he could do it. She looked at him in that courtroom, and she saw how much he cared for that baby. She thought to herself, this is the one person in the world who has connection to this baby. Who better to care for him? Danny left the courtroom, found a payphone, and called Peter. "Hey, guess what? You're not going to believe this. Nothing big, but I just adopted a baby." The newspaper stories were wild. Amazing. This guy stopped in the middle of everything to save a baby. It wasn't so much that he saved the baby. The real miracle, the real magic, was that Danny noticed him. How many people had walked right by that baby without seeing? How many people had written it off in their minds? And he had so much going on. He was rushing to dinner. He was late. He was about to disappoint his beloved. He had work to do, places to be. But he noticed. And he stopped. And he saw that baby. On that August night, another temple was about to be destroyed. A little baby was in dire straits. But one man's care, one man's regard, one man's defiance of indifference made all the difference in the world. Elie Wiesel famously taught that indifference is not just a punishment, but a sin. It's true. But it's also true that care, that regard, noticing someone, is the key that can unlock untold blessings. Because Danny noticed that bundle, because he stopped what he was doing to investigate, because he cared, that little baby is now a 22-year-old young man named Kevin who just graduated from college. Kevin, who's smart and wise and creative and thoughtful, was loved because that judge noticed Danny, saw Danny for who he was, who he is, and believed in him. And because of her, he and Peter got to be the parents of this incredible young man. And there's more. When Danny and Peter brought Kevin home, they loved telling him his story. From the time he was little, every night they would tell him how they found him in the subway station and about the kind of judge who allowed them to become parents. And Kevin loved the story so much, they decided eventually to make him a book so they wouldn't have to tell him the story every time he wanted to hear it, but could actually read it on his own. And he loved that book. He took it with him to school for show and tell. to show all his friends his amazing story. In 2010, when New York legalized same-sex marriage, Danny asked Kevin what he thought about proposing to Peter and what he thought about the two of them getting married. Kevin got all excited. Judges sometimes help with weddings. Do you think my judge could help with your wedding? Sure enough, she was delighted to officiate. As Danny shared with the BBC World Service, this woman, the very reason we're family, is once again the very reason we're getting married. It's like coming full circle. You know, all our lives are so busy, so full of things to do, places to go. Sometimes we forget that everywhere we go, there are bundles under benches. If we pass them by, we will never know what we missed. But if we stop, if we care, who knows the blessings the universe has in store for us. There's a traditional saying that God has many blessings for you. Keep your heart open to receive them. As we face Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, next week, we are all getting a wake-up call, a little reminder to keep our eyes open as we rush through life, a little reminder not to be in such a hurry as to be indifferent to the world around us and all the opportunities that present themselves to do a mitzvah. God has many blessings for us if we would only keep our hearts open to receive them. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. Amen. We continue on page 20 with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the special service for the reading of Torah, and it's my pleasure to invite onto the bima to help us undress the Torah, Alan and Marian Goldberg, and I ask you all to please rise.
Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Udevar Adonai Birushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato.
Beit Yaakov lechuvanelcha ba'or Adonai, O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of our God.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtatavu
Lehakosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtatavu Lehakosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
Please be seated. If you guys like, you could take these. Oh, there's only one. You could sit on the bench back there. Or
If you want.
a few words of explanation before I plunge into the Torah reading. Well, our Torah portion this week is a double portion, Matot Maaseh, and it concludes the book of Numbers, Bamidbar in Hebrew, which is the fourth of our five books of the Torah. And it concludes with a caveat, a condition, a coda to a story in last week's portion called Pinchas. It's the story about the 5 daughters of Zelophehad. Does that sound familiar to you? Machla, Noah, Holga, Milcha, and Tirzah. A mouthful. Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcha, and Tirzah. In last week's portion, these 5 women, the daughters of Zelophehad, come to Moses to plead their case. It's the 40th year of the Exodus, and the land of Israel is being parceled out to the members of each of the 12 tribes. And it's made clear how the land will be passed down from father to son throughout the generations. But Zelophehad, who died in battle, didn't have any sons, just these 5 daughters, who now have come to plead with Moses that this was not fair and not just, and they were right. Why should their father's name and his inheritance be lost to their family? And so Moses takes their case directly to God, who decrees, setting an important precedent in Jewish law, that if a man has no sons but only daughters, his inheritance will stay within his family and shall be divided amongst the daughters. This is a very important precedence that we come to time and time again. The 5 daughters of Zelophehad are remembered for their courage, for standing up, not only for themselves, but for the rights of all women. When we think about brave women who have done the same thing throughout history, the heroes of the suffrage movement and the outspoken advocates of women's rights like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we often say that they are carrying on and exemplifying the traditions of the daughters of Zelophehad. Unfortunately, in the closing lines of the Torah portion this week, the men of Manasseh, that tribe of the Zelophehad, have waged a complaint arguing that if these women, the daughters of Zelophehad, marry outside of their tribe, the land that belongs to their tribe will be lost. And so the caveat, the condition here, is that the 5 daughters of Zelophehad may marry anyone they wish, as long as they are from the tribe of Manasseh. In other words, they are ordered to marry their cousins. So, apparently, the cause of women's rights, the rights of all people for that matter, take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, which should be a reminder to all of us that the cause of justice must be guarded and fought over. For rights once conferred, think reproductive rights and the right to marry who you love, as in my sermon this evening, can be challenged and taken away. They are fragile. As we like to say, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But the bending only comes from brave and principled people standing up and fighting for justice. May we be amongst them. And now, we're going to read the closing verses of Matot Maaseh, and thus the closing verses of the book of Bamidbar. So remember, we have something that we have to say, which we say at the end of each of the 5 books of the Torah. Anyone remember? Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. Be strong, and may we be strengthened. Good words following those words. And it's my pleasure to invite onto the bima for the honor of the Aliyah, Deborah Blinder.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Kasher tziva Adonai et Moshe ken asu, benot zelofachad, v'tihi ena, malcha, tirtza, v'chogla, v'milcha, v'noah, benot zelofachad, lifnei dotehen lenashim, v'mishpachot b'nei Menashe ben Yosef hayu lenashim, v'tehi nachlatan, al matei Mishpachot avihen. Ela hamitzvot v'hamishpatin asher tziva Adonai beyad Moshe el bnei Yisrael ba'aravot Moav al Yarden Yericho. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torat Emet V'chayei Olam Nata Betochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach. Please accept my COVID hug. And in the presence of our Sefer Torah, we like to say special blessings, especially for our good friends and family who are ailing physically and spiritually and who are in need of our loving care. We are thinking this week, those of you who are out there sharing in our service remotely, we invite you to please share with us the names of friends and family whom you'd like to add to our Misha Berach list. We are praying especially for Casey Campbell Shadman, Diane Dakin, Randy Watkins, Gabby Lopez-Smith, Rebecca Williams, Victor Altman, Samantha Porteous, John Kaplan, Barry Klein, Ellen Clore, Carol Hogue, Rachel Frederick, Brooke Hall, Dan Fine, Maria Madrigal, Imelda Tamez, Cremilda Tamez, Guylen Smith-Gates, Wendy Obata, Mendel Lackman, Lou Hardy, and Peter Norton. And we invite anyone here who has names to add to please do so.
Andrew Singer and Ed Eisert. Misha Berah can be found on page 23. Lisa Rampola, Dawn Cordano, Margot Hanscam, keep going, and Sandra Lensgraf.
To those names mentioned aloud, those of us here, those of you at home who are in need for these same blessings of refuat nefesh and refuat guf, for healing of mind and body and spirit. Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim, blessed are you, O God, who heals the sick.
Amen. We continue with a prayer for our country and the state of Israel on the bottom of 23. Guardian of life and liberty, grant blessings to our country. Grant our leaders patience and wisdom. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and may we never be lazy in the work of peace. Eternal God, grant blessings to the state of Israel. Protect her people, shelter them with peace, and grant them deliverance from the violence that surrounds them. May they live in harmony with one another and with their neighbors. May the bonds of faith and faith that unite the Jews of all lands be a source of strength and blessing to each of us and to all the world. And let us say, Amen.
Those who are able, please rise.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva
page 25.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liyotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegoraleinu kechohamonam, vanachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, livnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai, lemelech hakol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, ushemo echad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Please
you.
be seated.
We remember with love all our loved ones who are no longer with us physically, but whom we carry in our hearts and in our memories, which sustain us and carry us. Even in our sadness, they give us strength. We invite those of you who are watching from home, if you have names of loved ones you are remembering, please go ahead and share them with us in the chat so we can bring their names into this holy space. And if there's anyone here who is either in Shana or Shloshim or Shiva, we invite you to please stand and share with us the names of your loved ones. Zichronam levracha. May the memory of all these precious loved ones be for a blessing and a never-ending source of strength. The following names are the names of loved ones who have a yortzeit, the anniversary of their death, sometime in the week ahead. We remember with love Rosemary Delgado. If I say the name of your loved one, won't you please stand? Lee Krieger, Jane Sobel, Robert Soralski, Alma Nelson, Peggy Morse, Miriam Lewis, Joyce Lochland, Len Utterback, Saul Gomberg, Paul Dunn, Jean Ashton, Harry Stroll, Meyer Lewis, Martha Zeff, Sydney Spanner, Gisela Burley, Irene Nosanow, and Ella Newman-Corin. Is there anyone present who has names to add to our Yortzeit list?
Add Joey Robinow, Herm Lewin, Aaliyah Deshay, Gail Weiss, Betty Myers, Laura Lee Southern, Sylvia Schatzman, and Joseph Tannenbaum.
Zichronam levracha, may all their memories be for a blessing. And we remember as well all those who have died in senseless acts of gun violence, all those who have died from COVID-19, and of course the 6 million. We take them into our hearts along with our loved ones who have died as we turn to page 26, and those who are able now rise for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divra cherute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayachon v'yomechon. Uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudisha berichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Ta'amiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Gehe shlama rabba min shemaya. B'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to the bereaved among us. And let us say, please be seated.
Thank you, Menashe, for lighting candles tonight. I saw Nancy is watching us tonight too from Mexico, so that's nice to have her too. Thank you, Deborah, so much for taking the honor of the Aliyah, and to Marion and Alan for helping us dress and undress the Torah, and also Mazel Tov to the Goldbergs as their grandson Ben got a third place for water polo in the Maccabia games. Is that right? Yes. Junior Maccabia. And it's okay. It's very exciting.
Was that competition in Israel? Fantastic.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Mazel tov.
Great. And thank you, Ian Walter, for filling in for Ari this evening.
Can you turn that camera on yourself? Let's see how well you've learned, because you really should.
Let's see if he can do it.
There it goes. And wave.
There's Ian. Oh, there's the wall.
There it is.
There he is.
This is like 1 second later.
There he goes. Thank you so much, Ian. You did a great job.
Filling in for Ari, who taught him how to work all that equipment, and fantastic.
Yeah. So,
and if there's anyone else who would like to learn
we really need
how
people
to run the equipment, Ari's not going to be here forever, so we really would love to train a cadre of people who could volunteer on Friday nights to come and help with our live stream.
Yes, good plug. Thank you to Beth Sanders for your gorgeous music this evening. And as always, I love it. Thank you for participating. A happy birthday shout out tonight to Robin Primack, Sophie Goldman, and Kim Yanez, and anyone else who's having a birthday this last week. Wish your friends, this is the last week I'm going to announce this, because if you get the gift of honey, you order your gift of honey for Rosh Hashanah, by the 1st of August, you'll have free shipping. And you can send your friends and family some honey for Rosh Hashanah. And it's always a nice thing to get in the mail around the holiday and say, oh, someone's thinking of me.
And it's a fundraiser.
And you can it's a fundraiser for Temple, and you can do it any time. It's just you get free shipping by August 1st. Put on your calendar our next rotation for Family Promise. We'll have families here from August 28th to September 11th, and it'll be a 2 weeks rotational stint, and so we're going to need even more people helping with meals, with staying overnight, helping drive the van, and helping host our families. And I shared with you last week a beautiful letter from our family that was left on our whiteboard in the classroom, thanking us for helping them. And it was a privilege for us. So I hope if you didn't join in, that you'll join in the next time around in late August.
You know, we don't do a mitzvah for the thanks or the kudos. We do a mitzvah because we're commanded. It's the right thing to do. But sometimes that mitzvah comes right back to you in how good it makes us feel. And this mitzvah of Family Promise, our first experience, was certainly that. Everyone who volunteered felt so good, and engaging with the family was so meaningful. So we look forward to the end of August, and I encourage everyone to volunteer if you can.
And finally, I just want to let you know that Jason and I will not be here for the next 2 Friday nights. Karma will be leading services with other people, and we're going to take a couple of Shabbatot off before the wedding of our son, Jory. And we'll be back on the 19th, and hopefully you'll all be here and more for an ufruf, is a blessing that we will be giving Jory and Courtney the night before their wedding, and that'll be on the 19th. So bring some really good oneg, and I hope we'll have a really nice celebration.
And come and sing again.
And come and sing with us. We're going to end with Oseh Shalom, page 27. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Let us stand for Kiddush and Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim.
Now, I know this seated challah here is by Deborah Blinder. It's beautiful.
Oh.
And then there's, it's pretzel salt. And then there's this mystery challah. Was it from Jack? It's definitely a homemade challah. Who brought it? I have
Looks
no
like
idea.
This one had a baby. It's smaller.
Anyway, we're blessed to have both of them. And
That's right. You found a challah and a sweatshirt. Under the pew.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Have
Shabbat
a
shalom.
wonderful Shabbat.
Let's say
a safe
Shabbat
weekend.
shalom to everyone at home. 1, 2, 3.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.
Please join us for